updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates on this very blessed Friday morning. I was going to say Friday afternoon, but apparently I'm rushing the day. But viewers, yes, it's such a pleasure to be with you this morning and to continue the show. Now, we've got a lot happening in our space. We had Mr. Ian Pollard on just a while ago, just talking about the number of initiatives that are happening this year and in the next 3 years for Tobago. I mean, we've had so many problems in the past about, our housing situation and so on. But we're going to be getting relief soon. So, guess what? You have a chance to call in and give us your comments, give us your views on what was said this morning and the plans that were revealed. And, whether or not you think that the goal of over 3,000 units, housing units in 3 years, are they doable? I mean, do you think that it's going to come into fruition? Of course, Mr. Pollard says he is committed and he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that that does happen. I mean, and we are definitely looking forward to it. It seems as though Tobago is in for a construction boom. So you can call in and tell us a little bit about it. How do you feel? So, yes, and then while we're at that, I mean, we've got so much happening in our space. Viewers, you need to take in the pan that's going to be happening this weekend. I know that our bands, Catching Jammers, Carib Dixieland, and NJC Steel Explosion, they've been going at it hard. I mean, every night I do hear Carib Dixieland pushing and, just improving their game. And we're so happy to see what's been happening with our pan in Tobago. And it's a long time coming. The talent has always been there. And, it's every year you see them go back, refine, perfect their art and so on, so that, when they go to these competitions, they can perform remarkably well. And we are definitely looking forward to it. So, if you want to call in, you can call in and give us your comments, and then, as we're talking about the carnival just a little bit, are you feeling the carnival spirit? I know there's a question right now that a lot of people are wondering, I mean, Carnival is next week. Did you realize that Carnival is next week? I don't know. I'm certainly not quite feeling it. Well, but I mean, it's not the same as it has been in the past, or at least the feeling is not the same. I don't know. Maybe people are still recovering from COVID, or maybe we're just too tired from Carnival in October in Tobago. That was quite a lot. There's a lot of activities that were happening there. So yeah, you could call in and give us your comments, or so do we have a caller online? Okay, we don't. Well, we actually going to. Okay, well, I'm being joined by none other than Dr. Shane Mohammed, who is live here in person.
As promised.
As promised.
As promised.
Yeah, so happy to actually, I'm so happy to have you on set with us. We see you virtually all the time. So now you can be on and you don't have your little cat trying to star with
Oh my,
you.
that's a Tobago and Kata.
All right, so what's been going on, Dr. Shane? How are things?
Things are good, Things are not bad. The new year has started pretty different, but pretty well. I hear you on not feeling carnival. I think it's because we've gotten accustomed to a new reality that we are now going back into another new reality. So there's a cross-section of the society that would have enjoyed carnival and participated, myself included, that just took a step back. And that's also okay. But I guess when next year comes, we may just take 24 into the father of all carnivals.
Well, we'll see what happens where that's concerned. No, we are in 2023. The political landscape has changed a little bit. And we see what's been happening, with the split between Chief Secretary Fali Augustine, and political leader of the PDP, Mr. Watson Duke. And a lot of people were just watching to see how this situation is going to play out. And what we're seeing is that Mr. Augustine and the team, they're continuing ahead, and they're pretty much ignoring or not paying too close attention to what happened in September and in August and so on. So what is your take on what you've been seeing so far?
I think it was inevitable. It was inevitable. The biggest liability to the PDP was, in fact, its political leader, and how he behaved and what he said and his ability to be diplomatic and to use diplomacy and to, be a representative of change. The
Yes.
change that the island so overwhelmingly voted for and, embraced. Where we are today, I think what annoyed me the most was to address the executive as Farley and Friends. It's not Sesame Street. He might be a Sesame Street character by himself, but Farley and Friends is very much the administration, and thus far working very hard to do their very best in the interest of the society of Tobago, and to chart a way forward that is not only progressive, but one that is, transformational and dynamic, and everything else that adds to the description of good and great and new, right? And I think a lot has to be, the fact that they are probably going to, if you look around the world, in a geopolitical sense, they're probably the first group of persons that actually took themselves out of a political party.
Yes.
And out of that toxic scene, and were able to maintain their majority and go into this framework that they're in now, and there's nothing absolutely wrong with it. I mean, there are persons I know there are people who talk about the possibility of political instability, and where is the political instability? I mean, at the end of the day, are the secretaries not doing their work? Is the economy not expanding? We have 48 ships coming to Tobago alone for the cruise
Ships,
season,
yeah.
right?
No, I mean, and on that point, as we're going through these town meetings and the administration is hearing from the people, which is something that we had expected, that the population had expected. I mean, perhaps 1 year too late, but at least they're doing it now. But one of the sentiments that's coming from the population is that there are a lot of broken promises. Now, with your evaluation and analysis of the past year, is that a fair assessment of the performance of the Farley Augustine administration?
Well, okay, we have to be specific. But yeah, I mean, at least the way I look at it is Tobagonians need to be very specific. If there are broken promises, what are the broken promises? And are the broken promises that they are speaking about on a macro level or on a micro level? And at some point, there are times when broken promises arise because of a lack of funding. We have to take into consideration one of the critical things about, and that is why I believe we need constitutional reform for both the islands for the islands as a whole, right? With the right team and the right grouping of persons coming together to put like-minded thoughts and opinions and ideologies in one, there is going to be a magnitude political shift that is going to provide the necessary means for the change that is desired at a macro level. Now, with that said, money is going to always be a problem as long as there's a different administration operating in Tobago compared to Trinidad, right? And I say this without no fear of anything. And that always has the ability to stymie the administration here in Tobago's ability to to meet all of the promises. And therefore, sometimes the macro promises outweigh the micro promises, and then you pick up the slack.
Yes.
And sometimes that's not a bad way of doing things, but it's also about saying to the people, and with these town meetings that the administration is having, which is also a good thing, it's the administration's way of saying to the people that we ain't forget y'all, right? We understand the need for jobs, we understand the need for opportunity and all of those things, but we ain't forget earlier. It's just that right now we have a macro project, which is, let's just take, for example, in health. We need to get Roxborough Hospital off the ground and up and running. And once that happens, people are going to get stuff. That's hypothetical, right? So I'm just saying that one. With regard to Trevor James' division of infrastructure, he has a massive plan for not only Tobago, Scarborough, but for Tobago.
And I mean, on the topic of Trevor James, I just want to pause here for a second because he has been under quite a bit of criticism for the way that he's handled procurement and granting of contracts and so on. And I know you've been paying attention to what was being said, especially by the PNM and the Minority Council. And I want to get your take on that. Did Mr. James handle some of these contracts above board? Or are there reasons for us to sort of kind of investigate or conduct an audit into what has been done in the past year?
Well, one, Mr. James is not the administrator of the Division of Infrastructure. That's the first thing. And therefore, he does not have direct control over what happens with regard to who gets a contract. That's two. And we must understand a very difficult phrase that people will not really get unless I explain, which is the dichotomy of public administration. Mm-hmm. And the dichotomy of public administration is the separation of powers between the administrator and which is the public sector and the political. And what the theory says is that one follows the other, and who follows what? The administrator follows the political direction, which is to turn the political policy into a structure that is able to meet the expectations of the people. I don't know that Trevor James is walking around Tobago and handing out contract forms and saying, hey, contractor A, B, or C, listen, sign this for $30 million and go and fix such and such. It's preposterous, right? It is, unless, and I have great respect for the gentleman, unless Calvin Morris could come and show cause that what he's saying is substantiated, then, okay, fine. There could be an investigation if it's substantiated. Mm-hmm. But don't politicize something for only the purposes of getting political mileage. Don't do that to a secretary who is maybe outperforming his colleagues because he is like a horse with blinders, has a goal to attain, and he's going to meet that goal regardless of what. Maybe we need some more of those, and need some more people in public office with that mentality of do the work, and then if I have questions, I answer them. Mm-hmm. But I am by no means concerned from even talking to Trevor James as a political activist from the days when he did not even dream to even enter into active politics to him now being, from him getting into the political arena to now him being a secretary. There's nothing about Trevor James that ever indicated that Trevor is an underhanded man or a man that is going and thief Tobago money or squander Tobago's revenues. He always appeared to me to be a man that was passionate about the development of Tobago, right? Yeah. And he made it no secret that that was what his plans were. Mm-hmm. Whether he knew it directly or indirectly, that at some one day he would get back into the political landscape. The fact of the matter is, as an activist, he had a passion for the people and for the development of Tobago. And now that he's in the chair and he's in a role to get it done, come, Kelvin, do better than that.
And then what about in terms of that accusation that, the politics of the day is affecting business in Tobago, is affecting the private sector, is holding the private sector in a bit. One, on the side of, those contractors in Tobago that were being investigated, that are still being investigated, still being audited for what was done prior to the elections, and also just the overall private sector feeling that the debacle between, or the rift between Mr. Fally Augustine and Mr. Watson Duke is affecting our ability to do business here and the viability of the private sector here?
I think that's a misconstrued perspective because, one, if let's talk about the contractors, right? If you were a contractor under the former administration and you know that to build a boat, let's just say, cost you $8 million and with profits, and somehow you are affiliated to the administration, which is what normally has happened, and you ramped up to $18 million, and instead of delivering the boat in 6 months, you deliver the boat in 18 months, then any new administration that comes in wants to know where the money gone. And where was the money misspent? Because money that is misspent is monies that should have gone into the pockets of the people through employment, right, and opportunities. So therefore, don't run and cry and hide that you are being investigated. You should have you didn't dream that the new administration is politics. Politics is a cycle, right? Some cycles last longer than others. Maybe the people who voted and overwhelmingly for Fally, and let me quote unquote Fally and friends, did so because they believed that they had reached their net level in enough of PNM promises that did not materialize, right? The next thing about this thing about we are in a situation of economic instability because of what has happened between Fally and Duke. It does not is it political. There's a separation between the political and the administrative, right? The political and the government. They are two separate entities. In Trinidad and Tobago, in the Westminster system, regardless of whether you run as an independent or whether a party affiliate, I continue to say that the Representation of the People's Act requires that you have a symbol, regardless of whether that symbol is your own face, or a monkey, or an emoticon, right? But at the end, or how do people emoji, right? At the end of the day, a symbol is required. When that political aspect is over and a winner is declared, you are really and truly not supposed to be describing yourself as a PDP or a PNM administration, right? Because it's just a way of identity in terms of, well, we did this when we were in power, or we did that. But I just talk about 48 cruise ships coming to Tobago alone, one of which made an about turn and came twice, right? And we are talking about political, economic instability, and the private sector is concerned. I challenge the private sector in Tobago to go and do something about the Cove Industrial Estate and do some investment. When they start building an opportunity and not only depending on the administration to do the work, why can't there be a public-private partnership for economic growth and revenue generation in Tobago? Why is Cove still empty? Why can't they put together an idea where instead of having the poor, having I saw this, good morning, Abby Taylor, our presiding officer, asking out on Facebook, all in which part have bread? Because the boat didn't bring me no bread. Because why have nobody thought about bringing a conglomerate of local Tobago bakers together and putting up a factory or some sort of processing plant for pastries, let's just say, right? At Cove. Private sector cannot just simply sit down and throw their hands up in the air and say, oh my God, look what has happened. Well, what has happened? I don't see an administration in trouble. I don't see an administration that is not working. I don't see an administration that is not doing its best with its resources, right? And they do know that there are strengths and weaknesses. They are aware. They are aware that there are some gaps that needs to be closed. that also comes with time. And while we are saying, well, yeah, but they're there since 2021,
Well,
2020,
you should say 2022
22,
because it was in
yeah,
December.
yeah,
You know,
22, right? So they've made a year, 1 year, and in that 1 year, they survived the greatest political uphill battle. No, how to describe that? They were able to circumvent and survive the greatest political threat to this administration, which was an uncontrolled, unapologetic train wreck of a political leader, right?
I mean, do you think that the public has too much of a high expectation for what should have been done in the first year of the Father Augustine-led administration? Was the expectations too high?
Well, he did say, people, Tobago, my lovely Tobagonians, there was always the plan that when they got into office, they had to first see what existed.
Yes.
Right? So having an idea of what existed, what was available, what they had to work with, what was squandered, right? They had a responsibility to the people of Tobago, to ascertain and to investigate and to explore and to ensure that if something was done illegally or if something was done without merit, and if something was done because of mismanagement of funds, if it could be recovered, then recover it.
Yes.
Right? Now that takes a lot of time, and it also entails a lot of meetings. It involves being involved with a hands-on approach, and designating the different bureaucrats to do what is necessary. Here we are in 22, right? This is year 23, sorry. We are in year 2. And we just start year 2. You all had a successful carnival. You all have cruise ships coming in. Those are just 2 aspects. You have Roxborough Hospital off the ground, right? You have James with a plan that he's ascertaining how to execute for a better Scarborough. I am told that Panton is doing excellently in her
With
field
Tadco.
with Tadco and agriculture. Those things are little points that you tick off, and if they're doing well, then you tell them you're doing well. But if they're not doing well, that's why the town meetings are there. It's for the people people of Tobago. You have to be specific. You can't just simply say, but they didn't keep their promises. Tell them, remind them, when you get the opportunity to speak to them, listen, we don't get an opportunity in Trinidad, right? Nobody talking to Tobago, to Trinidadians from a government level at all. So, this is a whole new scene here that's happening. But when you get a chance to talk to them, you simply remind them, Secretary, remember, you said that you would do X, Y, and Z. It might be very small, but it might be very significant to a village or to a community, right? And the good thing is, it's a weekly thing. Just find them.
Just find them.
Just find them and talk with them. Because as far as I realize and as far as I see, they are just ordinary people like you and I walking the streets of Tobago as compared to Trinidad. We ain't got no minister to walk no road, to walk no streets, right? They ain't got nobody to do that. Tell them to attend a special occasion where they get a cushion and a nice spot in the thing. They're there. But to tell them walk the street, the only person that walking streets in Trinidad is Penelope Beckles. Plain talk bad manners.
All right, and that's where we're going to have to leave it. Dr. Shane Mohammed, it was such a pleasure having you on. We need to have you actually on set more often. No, maybe that might be possible soon.
Yes, very
maybe
much
that
so.
might be possible soon. All right, viewers, well, that's how we're going to have to wrap things this morning. A bit of politics, a bit of carnival, just meshing it all together. And that's how we at Tobago Updates does it. Anyways, it was a pleasure, and please have a safe and productive weekend. Don't miss Fan on Sunday. It's going to be great. Trust me. I've been hearing our bands practicing, and it's going to be a wonderful showcase, and most likely Tobago is going to be at the top. Well, I'm hoping, I'm predicting that Tobago bands are going to be at the top of the Medium Panorama Finals. All right, viewers, see you again on Monday.